right. Hello and welcome everyone joining us on the live stream as well as here in the Zoom room. It looks like we're up to almost 100 people here in Zoom. And hello to our friends on the LinkedIn live stream, on YouTube, on Facebook. Feel free to shout out and type in the chat and the comments. Tell us where you're tuning in from today. I am here on Long Island, New York in an unair-conditioned studio, but we're staying cool with some coconut water. All right, we'll get started in just a second. But just a reminder, if this is your first time here, of our code of conduct. Basically, keep it nice, keep it clean, keep it harassment-free, and things will be A-okay. It's great to see folks tuning in from all across the country, including Portland, Oregon. I hope you're staying cool there, as well as other folks in the Pacific Northwest. Got India as well. Thank you for staying up in the middle of the night for this. A couple people from India. Okay, let's kick things off for real. Hello again and welcome to Getting the Job. This is a pre-Portfolio Festival event and webinar from AIGA, the Professional Association for Design. My name is Lishan Huang. I am the Design Education Manager here and the host of the Design Future Now podcast and the Design Future live streams and various webinars and events that we do here at AIGA. The 2021 edition of the AIGA Portfolio Festival is coming up in just a couple weeks from July 13th through 15th. The online festival supports students, recent graduates, emerging designers, and anybody really looking to refresh their portfolios. There'll be a focus on mentorship, collaboration, and learning. And the Portfolio Festival will also feature content from design practitioners, influencers, educators, and partners who can help you tailor your portfolio for your next opportunity. So join us for our workshops, keynotes, public and small group portfolio reviews. We are almost sold out. So if you're interested in registering, learn more, and sign up on aiga.org. You can also join a wait list if we sell out. But I think we also have unlimited tickets if you just wanted to get a view-only pass and watch the keynotes and other events. But today we're catching up with Grace Ling and Julia Fernandez, who took part in AIGA's 2020 Portfolio Festival. We were just saying before we went live how it just feels so weird that it was a whole year ago that we were just doing this last. We're going to be talking with Grace and Julia about their career journey since last year's festival, how they've landed jobs, built their networks, brands, and content platforms along the way. And final reminder about our code of conduct: keep it nice, keep it harassment-free, and we'll be A-okay. If you're here in Zoom, feel free to ask questions using the Q&A module there. If you're watching the live stream, we're monitoring the comments as well if you have a question, and we'll bring it and surface it and talk about it. So this is keeping it casual. Just quick intros to our guest today. Grace Ling is a designer, community builder, artist, runner, speaker, and content creator. She's a designer at Electronic Arts and the founder of Design Buddies, the largest design community on Discord with 22,000 plus members. And outside of design community building, Grace also creates content for social media and her blog to help students, designers, and community builders with their design and other creative careers. Julia Fernandez is an interdisciplinary designer, content creator, and vulnerable speaker. She's currently a product design intern at Facebook Reality Labs for Oculus and a senior at the Academy of Art University in San Francisco, graduating in December 2021. She's also the co-founder of Students of UXD, an online design community that helps make the world of human-centered design more human. All right, that's enough of my intro. Grace and Julia, welcome again to the livecast.
Thank you so much, Lishan. It's incredible to be here again. And like you said, I cannot believe it's been a year. I have no idea. Time is such a construct right now. So thanks for having us.
Sure
yeah,
thing.
thanks so much for having me on.
So usually, yeah, I'm so excited as well. We usually wait until the end for the social call outs, but we had a request from the audience already. Grace and Julia, could you just tell people where they can follow along with you and keep in touch online?
Yeah, I have many links, but I can definitely share the Discord group. I actually have a copy pasta, so incoming.
I love that.
Thank you. It's really convenient. But yeah, feel free to connect with me. I forgot to post on my LinkedIn, but I'm active on LinkedIn and all the platforms. So definitely connect with me as well.
Great.
There you go.
We're
You should find
posting
all of
that,
the links there.
posting that in the Zoom chat, and then we can also repost to LinkedIn. We can have a staff member do that. And then we're just at AIGA Design, or if you want to follow me as an individual, I'm just Lishan with no hyphen, pretty much everywhere. Let's get started with Grace first with just the quick catch up, and then we'll just have an organic conversation. But Grace, you were a panelist at the festival last year talking about community building, building a network, and your community and network just keeps on growing. So tell us, how have things been in the last year or so? What are some highlights?
Yeah, I definitely feel like I failed so much and learned so much since last year. Last year, basically, I was a new grad and I graduated studying bioengineering and computer science and engineering from Santa Clara University, and now I'm design. So I felt like a lot of imposter syndrome. I felt like this small potato in this vast world of design. So that was me last year. This year, I actually signed on full time at Electronic Arts in December 2020 and kept growing Design Buddies. I think last year at this time, Design Buddies had about 10% of the members it has now. So it grew 10x. So it's been super exciting. I've also started waking up at 5 or 6 a.m. to go running outside just to relive my childhood passions. And that kind of changed my life. Like honestly, waking up early, highly recommend that. There's no one around. And also drawing every day, and really learned to set my boundaries. And because I actually went through the kind of largest burnout in my life. So I really learned how to say no and to stand up for myself as well. So I feel like a completely new person from last year. So really excited to be here today as well.
Wow. I feel like there's a lot to pick up on in terms of your triumphs, your 10x growth, as well as some of the things that you're being vulnerable about in terms of your burnout. So we can come back to that if you're feeling comfortable talking about some of that stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
On the topic of getting up early, you've also mentioned you work at Electronic Arts, but you've also picked up some side hustle stuff with clients in Europe, right? So that's a getting up early kind of thing too. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. Sometimes like this week I had a call at 6 a.m. because for partnership calls with Design Buddies, some companies are based in Europe. And I started freelance community building, which is super fun. So just something I do on the side to learn more about the business side as well, and to be involved in many different projects. I'm always really curious. Like, I don't know where I'll be in 10 years, but I just do everything and everything I'm interested in.
That's awesome. So inspiring. Let's turn it over to Julia. How have things been in the last year? Could you give us some highlights?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, so much respect for Grace to like waking up 6 a.m. Lots of respect for that. So I last year, just to like give a recap, I was actually a portfolio reviewee. So like by the means of the universe, I was chosen to present my portfolio to the people, like over 1,000 people, which was absolutely wild. And who I was presenting it to was Dan Mall. And Dan is now actually one of my closest mentors ever. After the portfolio review, I basically signed on with him, and I ended up working for Super Friendly, became a product designer, intern first, then a designer at Arcade. And then that whole portfolio review festival like kicked off my whole product design, UX design career. And within that, I was able to get internships at Wish, the e-commerce company, and now FRL, Facebook Reality Labs, which is absolutely wild. I feel like this whole year was just like a puberty growth spurt design wise for me. And so I'm really, really grateful because I feel like I've opened my eyes to this community. In addition to that, I was also, along with my friend, Vicky Vo, we started to create this community called Students of UXD. And with that community, we've had over like 10 events about different things about the UX design community that you don't usually see in schools or in other communities out there. And so creating that community has been so much fun for me. And in addition to that community, I have been building my YouTube community, and I'm having basically conversations that are super vulnerable that I feel like I'm filling a gap on the YouTube community by talking about what it's like to be a design student and, going through all of the scary hoops of becoming a full-time designer. So I've been very busy with that.
Wonderful. And since you were talking about how the universe just matched you with these amazing reviewers, I wanted to give a shout out to Paul Mendoza, who hosts a lot of our community events, but he's both the Wizard of Oz and the man behind the curtain doing a lot of our matchmaking for the Portfolio Festival. So you were put where you were put because of folks like Paul on our team.
Thanks, Paul.
So the title of this webinar is Getting the Job. We want to talk about things about your creative life and your other platforms, your side hustles as well. But just to get to the main question that I think a lot of people watching who might be job searching or asking about is, how did you get your current gigs?
Yeah, for me, I started as an intern, but I spoke about this on the networking panel last year, but I didn't apply. What happened was I cold messaged my director on LinkedIn, and my biggest advice when doing this, before we're thinking of reaching out to people, if you ask for a job, you get advice. If you ask for advice, you get a job. So when I was just starting out on just my design adventure, I did not know anybody in design because I was an engineer. I thought I wanted to be a game developer or bioengineer or something like that. And so I did not have anyone in my network in my real life. So I just went on the LinkedIn's on like March 2020 and just like started cold messaging people. I remember sending like 400 message connection requests, the most I've ever sent. And I was just like asking people that seemed interesting about their job and like how they got to where they are, so I can learn about them. And learn about like how I particularly reached out to people who didn't study design in school, because I wanted to know like how I, as a non-design student, could be where they are today and get some strategies. So that's what I did. And then my director, Marlon, he was kind enough to ask me what I was doing this summer. And I was like, I have no job, because a lot of my interviews got canceled by COVID. And I was like, it was like March or April. And I was kind of like nervous and stuff because I didn't have any internships lined up. So he took me on, and I've interned there in the summer and the fall on the same team, the product experience design team, the tech org of EA. And I got an offer late November and I signed on full time in December. It was a really competitive offer, and Marlon also encouraged me to negotiate as well. So I felt like I had a lot of support from my team. And that's kind of how I got to where I am. But to sign on to full-time, sure, many of you are thinking, how do I convert from intern to full-time? And what I usually do is I focused a lot on personal branding. And I knew that leadership and HR were the final ones making a decision, not Marlon, not my managers on my team. And so I posted a lot about my learnings and journeys on LinkedIn because I know that's where they hang out. And that's how I was able to get visibility and get it on the radar. I also volunteered a lot in a lot of ERGs or employee resource groups. Now I help mentor a lot of interns, and I just help out and just reach out on the company and just get visibility, because ultimately they're the ones making decisions and going from there. And so I think all those factors kind of helped my intern to full time by just posting on LinkedIn. I guess that's the action item I could give. Posting on LinkedIn about my wonderful experiences at EA. And I actually did have a wonderful experience. I'm not just doing it for a show, but it's honestly like the best place I've ever interned at. So I just had this take on the full-time offer.
How did you find out that your supervisors or the HR folks were hanging out on LinkedIn and monitoring that?
They liked and commented on my posts.
Oh, wow.
So
okay.
like, oh, I'm on the radar.
Okay, so they weren't just like lurkers. They were actively engaging with your content.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we're getting some comments here saying that this is really insightful. I just wanted to chime in and add, as someone who's on the receiving end of cold emails and things all the time, that it's totally fine. I don't like ignore things that are cold outreach if folks are respectful or if they're like specific about what they want, rather than like stuff that's really open-ended. And also like, it's okay to follow up. Like we all get overwhelmed by our email and our DMs and things like that. Just don't be like a stalker and with too much stuff. But like, if you don't hear back, sometimes it's really, we've missed it. And like, you can remind us. And I think that's totally okay. I'm just kind of speaking for myself, but I'm sure a lot of people are in that boat. Julia, how did you get your current position?
That is a really good question. And so, surprisingly, like Grace, I was going through the hoops of experiencing what COVID did to lots of different opportunities. And that was actually my first recruiting season, trying to get a job or an internship at with UX design or product design. And that journey actually began with a lot of failure. Like I had no job, I had no internship, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to be doing everything wrong. Like if people don't want me, what am I going to do? And so instead, I like reframed that, and I saw the opportunity for the portfolio review, and I saw that as a chance for me to just learn about what I can do better as a designer, but also like Grace, somebody that has an online presence. And so what I ended up doing was like, I remember when I started going on LinkedIn, I was so overwhelmed because there are people with like thousands of likes on a post, hundreds of likes, and like they don't even have to try. And I was like, I'm going to post something and probably 10 people are going to watch it. And that's like, I was super scared, but I still put myself out there. And I ended up posting this video, which I'm going to post on the link on the chat. And so I ended up thinking, hey, I really want to show people why they want and why they should hire me. So I created this video and it actually, apart from the AIGA portfolio review, which got me my job with Dan Mall, King, I ended up posting this, and I also did not apply for my Wish internship during the winter of 2021. And the head of design there, Jan Sundar, actually messaged me and was like, hey, Julia, like she cold messaged me and said, do you want to work with us? And I'm like, yes. So I actually ended up choosing that and actually chose to defer and not graduate this spring because I was like, you know what? I want this internship. I want to grow. I want to have more experience in the job world. And so after that, I kind of got a better understanding of really truly the power of social networking and the power of putting yourself out there consistently, even if some posts get like 5 views or something like that. It's hard, but just being persistent and being consistent with your brand is so important. And so I ended up doing that, ended up doing YouTube. And once I actually learned from other UX design content creators about like how to do an interview and how to do all of this, that really helped me in my job search for the summer. So this product design internship at Facebook. And I actually documented that entire experience. So if anybody wants to check that out, I have design diaries online on YouTube. And I really wanted to just grow this space of being able to be vulnerable. And using that kind of point in my journey, I was able to be even more attractive as a candidate to the people who were hiring me at Facebook because I was being vulnerable. I told them I had no experience. I've never put this on my head before, but they still trusted me, and the authenticity that I showed really is what brought me to where I am now. So super happy that, just that I didn't give up, really. I feel like Grace, you can totally like chime in. Like a lot of the time you feel like you want to give up and you feel like you're not getting that reciprocation from people online. But I would just say, put yourself out there because you're not going to regret it.
We have some amazing audience questions coming in as well. And Grace, feel free to chime in on Julia's point too. Just wanted to acknowledge our audience questions first. Folks asking about personal projects, also about leveraging freelance experience into full-time agency offers, a question about cold emails, and then also about salary negotiations. So these are all some great topics. Let's actually start with the personal projects and the freelancing. So one of the points of advice that came up over and over again in last year's festival and kind of evergreen is even if you're a job searcher, recently graduated or between jobs, is you can still design things, right? You can work on your personal projects, or you can just pick up some freelance stuff even while you're looking for full-time stuff. Both of you, Julia and Grace, have personal projects that are kind of ongoing, even though you're currently working. Can you tell us more about what that looks like in terms of your workflow, whether it's like a daily practice or a couple times a week? Like, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, but I like the plus one to Julio's advice of just putting yourself out there because you never know what's going to happen. And I like to ask myself whenever I do something that seems a little scary is what's the worst that can happen? No reactions, people don't like me. What does that really mean in the long run? So always ask me, will I really care in 5 years, and just go for it and shoot my shot. Um, but going back to the question about personal projects, I guess for me, my main gig is my full-time job, but I also run design buddies, and I used to really be really active in tabling at anime conventions and making merch like pins. I actually have one right here. It's a
Oh,
bunny
so
pin.
cute.
Thank you. Yeah, I used to make a bunch of enamel pins, acrylic charms. Just I love art and like bunnies, so I just have a bunch of those. And yeah, I used to also make a bunch of games, VR games actually, with Oculus as well when I was in college. And running, I consider that a project, and blogging. And for me, how I like to think of myself as like a content creator is like I like to do stuff and talk about it. So I always think of like things to do so I can like talk about it and learn from it as well. And that's like where my content comes from. Um, and in terms of how I balance it all, so for design buddies, I've learned so much about leadership, management, delegating, roadmap, program management, product management through design buddies because I run a team of over 30 or like over 40. We have 11 core admins, which all have different roles like community lead, events lead, content lead, merch lead, design as well. And they all manage a sub team of like merchandise, content creator. And so I've always asked for feedback. That's like the number one thing I do when thinking of like how I want to delegate tasks. I ask my teammates, like, what do you want to get out of being an admin here? Or like, what kind of projects would you want to focus on that would also help design buddy? So I really try to make it like a mutual relationship. And so I also give them the initiative to like start things. So I trust them enough to be there, do their own initiative while representing Design Buddy's brand. So I feel like building trust and delegating and also really understanding my teammates is how I am able to manage a team to help me be able to like scale and grow Design Buddy so I can focus on my full-time work while have Design Buddy still growing without stopping. So I feel like that's the kind of like daily practice I do. I try to just always get feedback and try to like learn from everything and talk about it. And at work, I always try to be as engaged as possible, and also always just ask for feedback, keep improving, and just be really curious about everything. Curiosity, asking for feedback is how I'm able to like succeed, or how I'm able to like keep advancing and leveling up, and all the design and community building I like to do.
Yeah. I was just gonna chime in and say like, yeah, I feel like community building with regard to my YouTube channel and Students of UXD has just been something that like I wouldn't count as a hustle even just because I just like love being able to do it. I would say it's a hobby, it's a passion project, a personal passion project rather. And I think there's something about like Grace, like I love just being able to document things and just being able to provide and help other people like succeed is something that I absolutely love about the design community. And you can see that in communities like Design Buddies, like Students of UXD, and like even AIGA as a whole. I feel like the beauty of the design community is just we want to be able to lift each other up. And I feel like with the YouTube channel that I have, like I love being able to create videos just because like I want to be that person to help you believe in yourself and help you understand that you can do anything. And something to say about side hustles is like sometimes I get overwhelmed. I'm not gonna lie, like I want to do 500 things at once, but at the end of the day, the things that I really do turn to are just creating videos or just like maintaining that community within the people at Students of UXD, just because I feel like it's a safe space. It feels like a safe space to me. And, you know, and also making time, obviously, for my plants and like, you know, just personal like self-care is definitely something that shouldn't be seen as like counterproductive to your work, because I feel like that's what makes you be a whole person and be able to have the capacity to do all of these things, to pursue that full-time job or pursue all of these other side hustles. So I wanted to just like emphasize that that's as important, if not even more important, to also maintain that balance in your life.
Wonderful. So many great pieces of advice, but also audience questions. I'm trying to sequence this in a way that makes sense. We're trying to get to as many people as possible. But um, we've talked about some cold email or cold LinkedIn outreach before. Grace, you said you were doing that. Do you have any advice for what to say in those?
Yeah, so I always make it about the other person because I think about the cold emails I get. If random person, I get this like 10 times, at least 10 times, well, sometimes 10 times a day. But like random people I never talked to before, just like randomly asking for a referral. I'm just like, I just don't want to respond because I'm like, I don't know that person. And so I make it about that person. So what I did, I actually have an article I wrote that has a template that I sent for 100 people. And I had like 30 coffee chats from there. But basically, I gave like a one-line intro. I was like, "Hi, I'm Grace. If you're a student, say you're a student because that means like people would want to help you more usually, because they've been there before." So I was like, "Hi, I'm Grace. I'm a student studying CS and engineering, and aspire and would love to work towards a career in UX design and would love to know how you got to where you are today." And just make it short and sweet and just connect with them because some people rather chat via Zoom, some people rather just text, some people rather chat via phone. So I always leave it really open-ended because not everyone wants to commit to a Zoom call because I know a lot of people are also like Zoom burnt out. So I just want to be cognizant of that as well. And so I would just make it up on the other person, just show a lot of curiosity. And then usually it doesn't lead to a job because I don't like to bring it up at the first meeting because it feels a little awkward. And when people did that to me, it felt really awkward. I felt like I was being used. So I always put myself on the other person's shoes and how I would feel when people reach out to me. And yeah, so that's how I would approach it. Just make it about them and just be curious. And people love talking about themselves usually. So just ask them a bunch of questions about their journey, and in return, they might ask questions about your journey. And that's how you can stand out that way too.
100%. I think just to like add on to what Grace is saying, like, when you add someone on LinkedIn, you got a limited number of characters. So you gotta treat it like an elevator speech. Like tell them why you want to talk to them. Like sure, I can say my name, where I'm from, like, and whatever, but like just to be able to put out there like the so what. So my name is Julia, so what is the point of this conversation? And you like, I feel like being able to treat it as an elevator speech not only shows that you respect their time and respect their background and all of that, but it shows that you are being strategic as a designer, as a person that is trying to improve yourself, like have self-development with your career goals. So I think just being able to treat that kind of like an elevator speech is something that I always put in my head, so that you can also find ways to stand out in your writing.
Yeah, I'll just chime in too, since I get inbounds a lot of like, be specific about what you want to talk about. If you just say like, oh, I want to pick your brain about the design industry, like that's kind of a lot, or it's very open-ended. But if you want to say like, oh, how did you make the switch from a self-taught designer to working at an agency, or something very specific like that, it's like, okay, I can decide then if I want to just respond back in an email or say like, hey, let's just jump on a phone call or Zoom or whatever. But it's like, it's easier to decide that way versus like, why is this person asking for my time? Because then it feels like kind of suspicious or um, like too salesy.
100%.
We have a couple questions that I'll combine that have to do with like how you take your academic background and fill out your skill set. So Julia, in your case, you have an academic background in graphic design, but you've kind of branched out to more like UX and techie kind of things. Grace, you don't have a graphic design degree explicitly, but you've kind of branched out into areas where you are doing more visual work. So can you talk to that about like, how do you supplement what it is that you have like on your resume and on your diploma into these skills that might be attractive to an employer?
Right. Yeah. I can start with that. So like you said, I'm pursuing my graphic design degree, and my school has not like a class specific to product design and UX design. So I really had to like find resources online and be resourceful because y'all, like, I feel like I was able to learn all of the fundamentals of product design and UX design and succeed because of how many resources there are available to us. Like check YouTube, check TikTok, like check, I don't know, like even just like design books, like top 10 design books. I feel like I would not be here without the internet, because I feel like whenever I just had a question that I felt like compelled to answer, I would just Google it. And just being really smart, and understanding like, hey, here's what my portfolio looks like right now. I go to Cofolios and I'm like, oh, these are the portfolios of the people in companies that I want to work in. And like, I kind of was able to figure out the gaps in my learnings and really understand like, these are places where I need to improve, and not just like kind of like shoving them under the rug. Like, I really like went to all of those places I needed to improve on, like head first, and found people that were experts in that to teach me. Like, no matter how much I failed when like practicing a presentation in front of them, I knew that I was safe, and I knew that, again, like they were there to support me. And so I feel like just being resourceful and finding and being specific about where the gaps in your learning are were really, really helpful in order to help me get to where I am right now.
Here's another one that I feel like a lot of people think about. Anonymous says that you two are really well spoken. Has this always been the case? Or basically, this question asker is saying that they have bad anxiety and want some advice on how to overcome this when presenting design, or even just talking about yourself in an interview or a live stream in front of hundreds of people.
Yeah, for me, I used to be so scared of people. I feel like, especially growing up in my neighborhood, and I was always told like, as an Asian, I should like be quiet or something, and I should just like say yes, and like authority is always correct and all those stuff. Um, and yeah, so growing up, I always was really shy and quiet, and I was not that confident in myself. And I just realized, after realizing that I don't have to please anyone, I don't have to please everyone. I can just be myself. And I ask myself, what's the worst that can happen? People think I'm weird. People think I'm too outspoken. People think I'm whatever. But what does that really mean? Like, does it like affect me? Are they my manager? And I just kind of go from there. And it also comes a lot of practicing. I always say yes to a bunch of speaking engagements because I get a lot of experience presenting myself, and I always ask people for feedback and keep going in, iterating from there too. So always user testing, asking for feedback, and seeing how people respond. And really quick to touch on the academic background, for the previous question, I never studied design school, but growing up, I always thought I wanted to be an anime artist or a game designer, so I would never pay attention in class. Don't do this, kids. But I would always draw comics and manga. I loved anime, Pokemon, Maple Story, and games. I would actually sleep at 8 p.m., wake up at 3 a.m. every day to play Maple Story before school. I was max level. And then in high school, I got really into cross country and track, and I took this class called AP Biology, and I was like, wow, I know how to biohack myself to run faster. So that's how I got into bioengineering, for the sole purpose of knowing how to biohack myself to run faster, and STEM. And parents wanted me. It was like so proud, like, oh my god, you're doing STEM, yes. And after just studying bioengineering, I decided to go into computer science because I thought I wanted to do game design. I lived in Silicon Valley. I thought I needed to know how to code. And I was like, okay, I guess I should learn how to code or something, because that's what my dad does. So, and that's how I got into CS. But then after doing a lot of internships and being really unhappy where I decided I looked forward to like going home so I can draw. I decided to go into game design and later found UX design and product design. So that's where I'm at now. I saw a really quick question about boot camps. I guess I would say it really, really depends. Like, I self-taught myself design. I didn't go to a boot camp, but some people's learning style depends on if you need more guidance, if you need more structure, and that's completely okay. It really depends on your learning style. So that would be my quick answer to that.
And so we've also seen some questions about like, what do you do if you're not currently a student? How do you present yourself to get more engagement? I think, be honest, like say you're a recent graduate, or even if you're a job changer, you're looking to break into the industry. People are still willing to help. I think there's just kind of a soft spot for students, for a lot of people. I don't know if Julia or Grace have anything to add.
Yeah, I think too, like, again, like be authentic, because like, I don't know about you, but specifically for design, I feel like a lot of people are pivoting to design, and it's like, don't see you pivoting as a weakness. Instead, see it as like the best thing you could have for yourself, because like, let's say you can basically like get any of your like past skill sets that overlap with design, and say like, let's say like you were good at bioengineering, and it's like you're able to think strategically, you think out of the box, like you are able to have like a one up from other people that haven't had that experience from you. So I feel like this kind of touches on to the idea of like speaking to yourself. I always think of this concept of like, you are your best hype person. So like, if you're going to hype yourself up, you want to be confident about it. You want to be, again, having that elevator speech, selling yourself, because you are your biggest cheerleader. And it's so important to be able to reframe those challenges of like, hey, I'm not a student, they're not going to want to help me, or hey, I'm pivoting and I'm like, not like a student that's pursuing this or in a boot camp. I think you should really reframe your situation, because you are so much like, there's so much more to your journey than you think, that can actually help you stand out as somebody who's trying to stand out in the industry. So just really taking advantage of those different points, and like seeing your weaknesses as something that make you stand out, or weaknesses not actually being weaknesses.
I'm seeing Ambrose's point about being the worst person to hype themselves. And I just wanted to address that in terms of like, what I have my students do sometimes is have them pair up and then have them hype each other. So like, I have them interview each other to learn more about each other if it's early in the semester. And then I basically have, like, if Julia and Grace were teamed up for this, like Julia would introduce Grace and hype her to the class, and then vice versa. And so if you can enlist a friend, and that's my advice. I don't know if you all have any advice for how to be better at hyping yourself.
I would say like kind of similar to you, Lishan, like it takes a lot of like reflection, like self-reflection and self-awareness, to be able to be like, okay, I'm kind of good at that. Oh my gosh, like I should do this, right? And like I know that it's harder, especially with like, like I thought that I was trash at like UX design until my friend who I could trust, or my mentor, like was just like, no, you're doing a really good job. So if you're like me, who like loves being able to have words of affirmation, search for those people who can be a part of almost like your like team to hype you up. Like I would say like these people, whether it's your friend, your mentor, your teacher, your peer, like I feel like it's important to have kind of that reality check sometimes, because so much, especially in these like independent, like if you're a self-taught or whatever in these design journeys, you can feel like you're in a vacuum, and a lot of the time you can have lots of like cognitive distortions and like not realize how good of a job you're doing. So I would recommend like what Lishan said, like find people that can hype you up, so that, and that you can trust, so that you yourself can practice saying like, yeah, I'm actually good at this, yes, I can do this. Because it takes a lot of practice, but over time, like it's almost like if you say something enough, it will become true. And that's something that I personally do. Like affirmations are amazing.
Yeah, and just to close the loop on that activity, it's like once you have your classmate hype you, like you basically like borrow their words and then like try that in the outside world and see what fits, right? But it gives you some distance, because sometimes it's hard to talk about yourself in all of these like extremely positive ways. So a couple more questions that we can get to today, and the rest, I hope you'll attend the full portfolio festival, because I think we'll go into detail in some of the specifics of like how many pieces to put in your portfolio and transitioning from graphic design to UX and things like that. But what do you think about salary negotiation? I know, Grace, you had that experience doing that. Do you have any tips on how to do that?
Yeah, so I actually read a lot of articles. Like I remember, so I didn't know I was gonna get an offer so soon, and I was like, oh, I never prepared for negotiation at all. I was like kind of scared. And so what I did was I read a bunch of just like articles online about negotiation, and I also practiced with people. Um, about salary negotiation and negotiation in general. You want to find out why that person hired you, or like why that company reached out to do a brand deal, and use that to not argue, but use that to leverage that to negotiate. So because companies spend a lot of time trying to source candidates as well, and so they want you to get the role. And for me, I would also do a lot of research on what the current market is as well, and ask, and just like not ask, but just going like Levels, FYI, Glassdoor, and just seeing what the current market rate for my location is. And then also have that in the basket, but also for me, I was an intern at EA, so I talked about the impact. I also did a lot of extracurriculars, did a lot of ERGs, and also was kind of like a thought leader on LinkedIn too. And I also, so I just kind of brought those into the equation, and also asked what my manager saw in me and like why he wanted to hire me. And so I use all those, and then I ask, is there room for the so I first actually asked them for what they offer first. It's always important because you could be imagining something that's like less, but always hear the offer first, and then ask, is there, so first thing you want to, you can negotiate different things, but the first thing you want to do is salary, yearly salary, because that's the thing that impacts you the most. So I would say, is there room to bump this up like this amount of dollars an hour, and just like pick from there. And then if that's a yes, and like, is there room to give me more stock option? Is there room to have more like educational assistance to pay back like any student loans or anything? Is there room to get more relocation fees? Is there more room for bonuses, stock? So you can basically negotiate higher salary, stock options, RSUs, like all the stock units, any benefits, more a higher rate of 401k. So this, it's not always about salary. You can also negotiate like more paid time off in case that's something you value as well. So to sum it up, just look at what the market is, look at what you offer to the company, and look at why they hired you. And really, whenever going through like nerve-wracking interviews, I always look at myself in the mirror and tell myself I'm like the best person in this world to like hype them up, and focusing on my strengths, and then going in there with confidence. It's also like the why pose I do as well. And yeah, so I just look at what's the market, focus on my strengths, look at why they hired me, and then ask, is there room for this? And just keep going down the ladder of like salary, stock, and like the high ticket items, and going down from there.
Yeah, I would say, yeah. I was gonna say too, like I'm like mentally preparing myself to be in that state of negotiation. And I think just something that I want to clear up that like I feel like stopped me from like being empowered to negotiate is like, I thought that if you negotiated, they could just like take your offer away from you. That's not true. So like literally the worst thing that can happen is that they say no, but you still get the job. So something to clear up, like, because I feel like I was like, no, I don't feel empowered. I don't want to like lose this opportunity. Make sure that you just advocate for yourself. And like Grace said, like basically see why you're a good investment for that company, and just like put into the equation, like, yeah, like this is what I like value. There's also a lot of great books. I know Dan Mall has his own book about pricing, and like just like being able to be resourceful and know that you're being smart and know that you're self-aware about these different aspects of negotiations, and just try it, because the worst thing that can happen is you say no and you still get a job, you know?
Yeah, and I think just to add to that, like it costs companies time and money to do recruiting, right? So like the clock is already ticking. They're already spending money interviewing you and other people. And so sometimes it behooves them to close the deal if it means that like they have somebody working for them. So if you've done your homework, like know what your walk away number is, right? If you like literally just can't afford to work there because you can't cover rent and your student loans and all the things, like obviously you don't want to go below that. And then above that, I think Grace already covered it, but there's other things on the table beyond just like the number for your salary. So we have time for a couple more questions. I think this is a really important one from Anonymous, asking like, what is something you can do if you're not a content creator? I know he's asking like 3 people who are content creators this question, but what can you do to stand out if you're not putting yourself out there with blogs or articles and all of that sort of thing?
That's a really good question. And I think that it's not necessarily like the fact that you're a content creator, like spitting out content all the time. It's more of just like Grace said, like another strategy is like share your learning. So like show that you're an active participant in the community. So you don't have to be a content creator to be active in the design community, or be active in like the spaces in which like you want to get your job in. So I would say like, for example, like after this webinar, like post on LinkedIn what your learnings were, tag all of us. Like, I feel like it's not necessarily just like, I think content creation is associated, I think, with a lot of likes and engagement and all of that. But really, I would see the goal of putting that content out there as being able to like open doors for connection and open doors for opportunity. And that does not mean numbers. That does not mean like new followers and all of that. It just means that you're making better opportunities for you to connect with other people. So don't put the weight of content creator on your shoulders, because the more you are able to like organically produce content in different ways is like probably like the best type of content you can get out of the situation. So I would say that just show engagement in the community.
Yeah, I also agree with Julia. And also, I also really like the point you brought about being vulnerable and sharing your stories, because I feel like it helps a lot of people really relate, and it really impactful because people in the similar situation, sometimes it's like really online, people always share their highlights, but oftentimes people go through stuff that are not always positive all the time. So for me, being vulnerable online has also helped me a lot. Just sharing my own stories, not just like creating content for content, but just sharing the failures I went through, what I learned along the way, help people feel like they're not alone and more validated in their situation. That's what helped me. And also sharing takeaways from events. And for me, another way to stand out that helped me in the past was just doing something you're really, really passionate about. For me, I was actually creating my own virtual reality game in college that was based about biology, gamifying biology, and really niche things like that, but just like really things that you really like, and just finding things you really like and just really going after it and creating a project, and don't let anyone tell you not to. And yeah, and you get a cool piece for your portfolio as well that you completely just didn't do for class, for me at least, and just for fun. And that was also another way to stand out, is to just really hone in on your own unique strengths and interests, and really showcasing that too.
I'll just add to that sometimes the content that you're creating doesn't have to be public. It could be for a very targeted private audience, whether it was Grace like posting on LinkedIn kind of publicly, but targeting it to the people at EA, or maybe you had an informational interview with somebody and you just messaged them a few months later, like, hey, I read this article and I thought this might be interesting to you. Like, make yourself helpful. It sort of puts you back on the radar without like being like, hey, do you have any jobs open? But it's like you're offering value to that other person, or you're kind of showing that you remember them, or you're interested in them and you care about their interests. So I'll add that point of advice. Just wanted to close out by saying there's still time to join us for the 2021 AIGA Portfolio Festival. Hear from our headliners, including Gina Ann, Aaron Draplin, Kalina, Sales, Zipeng Zhu. You can use code AIGA5 for $5 off your ticket. We posted a link to sign up there. Just go to aiga.org. I'll turn it back to Julia and Grace just for any final thoughts, if you had any resources to share or any call to action before we sign off today.
Grace, you can go ahead.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, I thought you were gonna go ahead, but definitely feel free to join Design Buddies. And I feel like some advice I would tell my younger self is, or my past self, or myself 1 year ago, would to just be focused on, don't care about what other people think of you. I just try to be myself, and I just like ask myself, what's the worst that can happen? And also set boundaries. Like, it's okay to say no. It's okay to like not respond to someone if you're feeling overwhelmed at that moment. And there's always going to be opportunities out there in this world. There's never a limited. So don't ever feel like you're missing out if you're saying no for your mental health. Like what Julia said, without health, you don't have anything else. So really prioritizing that, living a balanced life, do something that makes you feel happy every day. And another piece of advice is, when I got into design, actually, I faced a lot of friction from my professors. And basically, TLDR is the head of the bioengineering department told me that I'm doing everything wrong with my life and I should do engineering and I'm wasting my time, blah, blah, blah. And how his 14-year-old daughter does design and I'm too old to switch or whatever. And I'm sure this is probably common amongst other people as well, but people just don't talk about it. But even if people in positions of authority, like parents, professors, even mentors, tell you shouldn't do something like design, but you're really, really interested in it, life is too short to live under someone else's dreams. So you should just pursue what you want, and don't let people, even if they might be in positions of authority, dictate or influence what you want to do with your life. It's your life to live. And when you're doing what you like the most, you'll put your best work out there. And yeah, feel free to join Design Buddies and connect with me on any of my social media platforms, message me for any questions. And yeah, thanks you so much for having me on to Julia.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Yeah. Echoing everything that Grace just said, I would highly recommend like joining Design Buddies, checking out studentsofuxd.com as well, and also following me and subscribing to my YouTube channel. You can just search up Julia Fernandez Design. And I'm really here to help everybody else. So like, again, connecting with me on LinkedIn, connecting with me on Instagram as well, and TikTok at a design woman. I feel like just being able to connect with you all is just going to be amazing and fantastic. And like Grace said, like, don't live a life of like regret and like being just on the fence of doing what you love, because, you know, I feel like life is too short. I feel like just reframing your perspective of a can-do attitude, of abundance, and of just being able to, again, be the best advocate for yourself is super important, especially when trying to find your place in the design world. So I would just highly recommend, you know, doing what Grace said, connecting with us. Like we're humans too. I feel like a lot of the time when I like tune into these AIGA or these webinars online, I'm just like, no, like I can't connect with them, but we are humans and we want to be able to help you. So help us help you by connecting with us and asking us questions, because I'm sure there's a lot of other things that we can talk about.
Wonderful. Well, Grace and Julia, thank you again for spending the time with us and our audience. Thank you all for tuning in live, or if you're watching this recording. Hope you enjoyed it, got some advice, inspiration. Hope to see you at the Portfolio Festival this year or at the next AIGA event. So until next time, I'm Lishan Huang at Lishan, no hyphen, or at AIGA Design. See you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.